Imagine buying a Ferrari. Imagine spending millions of dollars to acquire one of the most exclusive and expensive cars in the world. Imagine the moment of delivery when you take possession of something that represents the pinnacle of automotive engineering and Italian craftsmanship. And then imagine being told you can't drive it. Not on highways, not in cities, not even legally on public roads anywhere in the world. You own it, you paid for it, it's yours. But you're not allowed to use it, not on the street, not where normal cars drive. Today, we're talking about a Ferrari so extreme, so uncompromising, so fundamentally at odds with modern society that governments stepped in and said no. This is the story of the Ferrari that crossed the line. This is the story of a machine that proved what happens when a manufacturer builds without constraint. Ferrari has always been about pushing limits. They've always been about speed and sound and design that challenges conventions. They've always asked how far they can go. But this particular car wasn't just fast. It wasn't just loud. It was built without compromise. There was no concern for regulations during the design process. No interest in comfort features. No intention of being practical. No consideration for how real humans might actually use it. It was created to prove a singular point. And that point was beautifully simple. What happens if we build a Ferrari with no rules? What happens if we ignore every safety requirement, every emission standard, every noise regulation, and simply create the most extreme machine possible? What would that look like? From the very beginning, this Ferrari was fundamentally different from anything Ferrari had created before. The ground clearance was minimal, dangerously low. Any speed bump would be catastrophic. Any pothole could cause serious damage. The aerodynamics were extreme, designed purely for track performance. Every design decision prioritized speed and handling at the expense of practical road functionality. Inside the cabin, there was barely any insulation. You could see bare carbon fiber everywhere. The seats weren't comfortable chairs. They were racing harnesses that secured you to the frame. There was no climate control, no sound dampening, no attempt at luxury in the traditional sense. This wasn't transportation. This wasn't a car designed to get you from point A to point B. It was a machine engineered for controlled environments. It was built for racetracks and private circuits and closed courses. Public roads were never part of the plan. They were never considered. They were never part of the design equation. Street-legal cars must meet fundamental requirements. There are crash standards that vehicles must pass. There are visibility requirements to ensure drivers can see and be seen. There are noise regulations to protect communities. There are emission standards to protect the environment. This Ferrari ignored most of them. Every design decision prioritized different concerns. Downforce was prioritized over visibility. The extreme bodywork created blind spots. Speed was prioritized over comfort and safety. Weight reduction was prioritized over protection. The materials used were chosen for performance, not survival. In a real-world accident, in an actual collision, the risks would be completely unacceptable. That alone was enough to keep this car off the road. Regulators looked at it and immediately understood that this wasn't compatible with public road use. Then, there's the matter of the sound. This Ferrari isn't loud in the way people typically think about performance cars being loud. It's not impressively loud. It's unacceptably loud. The engine wasn't tuned for neighborhoods and residential areas. It was tuned for racetracks, where noise doesn't bother anyone because there's no one around. The decibel levels would violate noise ordinances in virtually every jurisdiction. Emissions? They barely warranted consideration during development. The engine is optimized for power, not for clean air. Modern environmental regulations couldn't possibly justify this car. This Ferrari doesn't apologize for any of this. It doesn't try to meet standards. It doesn't compromise. And regulators don't allow that. When you're operating on public roads, when you're sharing space with other people, you have responsibilities. You have obligations to the community. This car rejected all of those obligations. So why would anyone spend millions of dollars to buy a Ferrari they can't legally drive on the road? Why would wealthy collectors purchase something with such a fundamental limitation? Because this Ferrari was never about driving to dinner. It was never about transportation. It was about something entirely different. It was about status at its most extreme. It was about access to something forbidden. It was about being part of something exclusive, something that society said no to. Owning this Ferrari meant you understood Ferrari at its most uncompromising. You understood the brand at the point where it rejected all limitations. You understood what happened when money and engineering combine without the filter of regulations. And that alone was worth millions. That knowledge, that position, that membership in such an exclusive club was valuable beyond the monetary price. Ferrari didn't frame this as a limitation or a problem. They reframed it as a feature. This car was carefully labeled as track only. It was presented as a private collection piece. It was positioned as exhibition-grade equipment. Ferrari made it clear that owners were expected to store it carefully, transport it professionally, and drive it only under controlled conditions. You weren't buying a car. You were acquiring a piece of automotive art with specific maintenance requirements. For most collectors, for the ultra-wealthy buyers who actually purchased these vehicles, that was perfectly acceptable. They didn't want to drive it on public roads anyway. That would diminish the exclusivity. That would expose it to damage and dirt and normal wear. The road legal limitation actually enhanced the appeal for these buyers. This Ferrari wasn't banned because it failed. It was banned because it succeeded too well. It proved something important. It proved that when manufacturers are completely freed from regulatory constraint, they can build something genuinely terrifying, something that's beautiful in its extremism, something that society isn't ready for, something that challenges our understanding of what's possible, that makes this Ferrari less of a car and more of a message. It's a statement about the relationship between technology and regulation. It's a demonstration of what happens when one overrides the other. It's a physical manifestation of the question, how far can we go? Ferrari didn't lose sleep over the road ban. The company didn't lobby to change regulations. They didn't try to make this car street legal. Because this car was never built for mass appeal. It was never designed to be something everyone could buy. It was built for collectors. It was built for loyal Ferrari clients who understood the brand at its most extreme. It was built for extreme enthusiasts who appreciated the statement being made. Being banned from public roads only increased demand. Among the right circles, among the people this car was actually meant for, the restriction was desirable. Nothing raises value like restriction. Nothing increases demand like saying no. The ban made this Ferrari more desirable, not less. Use the irony that captures the essence of this entire story. This Ferrari is one of the most desired cars ever made. It's one of the most valuable. It's one of the most celebrated. And yet, it's one of the least driven cars in existence. Some examples have never touched asphalt. They've never been driven anywhere. They exist in climate-controlled garages as mechanical artwork. They're displayed at exclusive events under watchful security. They're owned but never used. They're banned and celebrated because of that ban. The restriction became part of the identity. The prohibition became part of the prestige. So why was this Ferrari banned from the road? Because it wasn't built for rules. It wasn't engineered to coexist with regulations. It was built to explore the absolute edge of what's possible when engineering is freed from constraint. It was built to answer the question that most manufacturers don't even ask. What if we didn't have to compromise? What if we didn't have to make safety the priority? What if we just built the most extreme machine possible? Sometimes true luxury doesn't ask permission. Sometimes the most valuable things are the things we're told we can't have.